God treats man in this story like a jerk. He talks down to him. He even seems to treat him, actually treats him like a child. He treats him like, you would talk to a little kid. Listen how he talks to him here. And I'm making fun of it a little bit. Okay, here's the admonition, 16. You may eat of all the trees in the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you are not to eat, for on the day you eat it you will surely die. Now that doesn't sound too much like he's talking down to him, but as he goes along it gets a little worse when God speaks to him, like here in line 13 of chapter 3. When Adam is trying to avoid responsibility, God says to him, "What is this you have done?" Like a stern father talking to a child. Naughty, naughty, shame on you, and so on and so forth. So he sort of talks to man like a stern parent would. Anyway, he thinks to himself, and he's very personalized here, it's not good that man should be alone. I'll make him a companion. So he fashioned all the birds of the air and the wild beasts. So you see, it's at this point he fashions the other creatures. You see that here? Line 19. So you see there, those of you who think you can put these together in a single, you can't. And that's the weird thing. 1900, 2,500 years. I don't know when people never said boo about this. Never looked at this and said, what's going on here? Why? Because they were afraid to. Because authority would not allow them, and so they never thought out of the box. I mean, if you were Joan of Arc, you didn't read this and say to yourself, hey, there's a contradiction there? Oh no, you daren't do it. She got burned anyway, but she didn't want to get burned for this, you follow me? We weren't free to do it. We only started, and in large parts of the world, I don't want to hurt Muslims' feelings, but you see what's happening in the Muslim Middle East. They're really in the Middle Ages, which is dangerous for us, because they have all the modern accoutrements, but they're living with a medieval mentality. And terrible things can happen in a situation like that, not to them, but to us, because they don't have a lot to lose. But we have an awful lot to lose by this sort of total irresponsible mindset that we're encountering here. Or a mindset that's convinced of its own righteousness to the point that your life is meaningless to them. So they have no pity for you whatsoever. You don't matter. You're just something that should be blown away anyway. Well, you see, that's because they haven't gone through an enlightenment period yet, and they haven't separated church and state. I see the Bush administration is trying to unseparate church and state now. And I'm listening to those testimonies in Congress of the new Chief Justice that they want to put in there. Has anyone listened to those? It's quite frightening to listen to, because the people for him are all just sort of patting him on the back, praising, but you know that they know something that they're not telling the rest of us. And the people against him, of course, are pulling him apart. But he is totally evasive on everything, totally evasive. Never tells them anything of what he really thinks, because he's been put in there to do certain things, and he knows that's the case, and it's kind of frightening to see that this is what America is at the present time, being ripped apart by people who want to control others' minds, and maybe both sides want to control. I'm not saying one side is better than the other, because I'm not totally against the present administration, but it is frightening to see that this division of church and state is being eroded. When they asked him about it, he said, oh, well, there is no division of church and state. It's a different thing. I forget what he said, but he was extremely evasive and, playing with words. And he's going to be Chief Justice for the next 30 years, maybe 40. He may hang around until he's 80 years old or something in that particular job, just like the last one did. And that's kind of frightening. You're going to be seeing that person for the rest of your mature life. And he's going to be controlling all the decisions that the court is making. It's really kind of frightening to see that situation. But anyway, we already lived through 30 years because the other Chief Justice was just as bad. I mean, in the sense that he didn't want to observe the elemental divisions of church and state. And see, it's the division of church and state that allows us to be free in terms of thinking. Doesn't mean you have to observe a given, not be a religious person. I feel that one is. But just one doesn't want to be told what to believe. That's all. So anyway, that's just a diversion there. But the reason people didn't see these things, like that particular God fashioned the wild beast and the birds after he fashioned man, and that's just totally at odds with the first account. Plus it's nonsense. But it's not bad, artistically speaking. It's a good story artistically speaking. It works artistically speaking, aesthetically speaking. So anyway, he brought these creatures. One of the reasons the writer here wants to wants to wait for that, because he wants to bring these creatures to the man. Why? Because the man is going to do what? Name them, as if he's got some supernatural intuition that these names have a more than ordinary significance. And in the classical period they always did. You see sentences like, for instance, in the Quran, Muhammad, and God taught Adam all the names. And God taught Adam, like the first man, like the names of the animal had some significance intrinsically in themselves. To be master of the name. I think sometimes Jesus is portrayed as having some mastery over the name of God, or in the name of God. And in Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah, there was a teacher recently in the 1700s in Eastern Europe who is the person that a lot of these enthusiastic this one group is called Chabad, what we call Hasidim, follow, and that teacher was called the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, the master of the good name. What did it mean to be the master? That he could do miracles by naming the name of God, the way Jesus can do in the New Testament.